Do you know bracing, shear wall, and moment joints provide lateral stability to steel frame buildings? In this lecture, you will learn about braced and moment frames. I will briefly cover a design example of reinforced concrete shear wall design as well. This is part 24 of lecture series on steel design. For other parts, please have a look at link down below. Hey friends, if you're new here, I am Dr. Javed Qureshi, a senior lecturer at a London university. On this channel, we explore technical and human skills to help us lead more productive, happy, and examine life. This is the second lecture of 4 lectures on stability of buildings, and I'm going to talk about braced framing and moment frames in this part 24 of 30-part lecture series on steel design. In part 24, first I will briefly talk about braced framing, where I will talk about different bracing systems, and then I will move on to moment frames. And I will briefly talk about shear walls as well, and I will give one worked design example. Now, braced framing. Now, types of bracing. Braces, they work with beams and columns to form a kind of a vertical truss. Now, many configurations can exist. We have column here, we have brace here, and then we have beam, and we have braced column set. Now, types of bracings that are common are diagonal bracing, and X bracing is the most common one because if wind blows in one direction, the other bracing is not effective. If wind blows in other direction, then the initial bracing is not in use. And then we have inverted V bracing or A bracing, and then we have V bracing here, and then we have this K bracing. So there are various types of bracings being used. Now, typical bracing systems, you can see these X bracings, you can see cross bracings. I'm sure you would have seen these kind of buildings across London or somewhere else. Now, which bracing system to use? It's a big question. So it really depends on architectural constraints, if there are any doors or windows or facades and other things. Here you can see that on the ground floor we have bracing like this, and at first floors we are bracing a different bracing. And this is something which we try to avoid, and this is a kind of bracing as well. And again, doors and windows, they kind of dictate how do we provide bracing. And again, here you can see that for this inverted V, we have a door here. And then again, top of that, we have X bracing. The analysis of bracing system, it is common to ignore the diagonals in compression or struts and consider only tension ties. Now, why is that? The reason is that if wind blows in one direction, then only one side is effective. If it blows in the other direction, so if wind is blowing in this direction, you can see that these are tension members. But if wind blows in the other direction, now the ones that you see, the slag ties sagging under self weight. Now you can see that other members are in compression, and we ignore the compression resistance. But if we reverse the direction of the bracing, then what will happen is that now the bracing which is taking tension, now it will take compression. So these are most effective ones, so that's why we use cross bracings. Angle of brace depends on geometry, but the ideal angle is in between 30 to 50 degrees. This is most important. And you can see here that intersection point of element axis. So it is useful to provide this intersection point, and the angle of bracing should be between 35 to 50 degrees. Ideally, if it is 45, that would be good, but if it isn't, then you have no choice. Then what do we use as bracing? We can use plates, which is the case for most of the bracings, and we can use rods or cables. We can use these universal columns or hollow sections, but this is not very common. And then how do we connect them? You can see simple connections here, but most common ones are plates, and sometimes we use leg angles as well. Leg angles are common as well. Now for simple joints, this guide is really very important, so have a look. Now here you can see that partial depth end plate. So plate is welded to the end of the beam, and then it is bolted to the column on major or minor axis side. So you can see this is the side from the other angle. You can see it is welded to probably half or not the full depth of the plate. Full depth end plate. Now full depth end plate, they provide simple connection as well. So you can see here that your end plate is welded to the end of the beam, and then it is bolted to the column. Now these full depth end plates, these are most common ones, and the reason is that because they prevents out of the plane buckling. That's the reason we use these quite a lot. Fin plate
connections where fin plate is welded to the column, and then again it is bolted to the side of the beam. Now the trouble with these kind of joints is that the out of the plane deformation is not prevented, so which causes a bit of a buckling. So we in industry most of the time we avoid to use these fin plate connections. So for secondary beams normally we use this partial depth end plates, and for primary beams most of the time we use this full depth end plate joints. This is what I've seen in real buildings. Then again you have column splices, and then again another joints. What is missing here is we use sometimes leg angles as well. So leg angles are bolted to the column, and then they are bolted to beam flange as well. But leg angles are not very commonly used in the UK, because again you have to take care of lots of things. So you have to bring those leg angles and then connect them here. Here, if the end plate is welded, then simply it becomes more useful. So this type of joint, full depth end plate, is the most common one in buildings. Analysis of braced systems. So we have diagrades, we have mega braced buildings as a variation of braced framing. Have a look at this building. This is Gherkin St. Mary X in central London, and Cheese Grater building in central London as well. So these are variations of different bracings which are outside the building, and then you can see that main concept is still the same. Now moment frames are not very common in the buildings, at least in the UK. We use these moment frames in warehouses where we use portal frames. So the lateral stability is provided by rigidity. Now, how do these moment frames look? I think there will be one slide on that. So in moment frame, stability comes from fixity. Stability doesn't come from bracing or shear walls. Here, it comes from fixity. By fixity, I mean that stability is achieved by rigid or fixed or moment joints between beams and columns. Now, here is the typical example of fixed joints. Now, you can see that in here, supports are fixed, joint is fixed, and we have one pin at the top. But this is the complete moment frame. Now here you can see that we have two pins. This is a kind of hybrid system. And again, two pins at the top, fixity at the bottom, and then again fix at the bottom and two pins at the top. And this is a typical example of a fixed frame. And these are various examples. So with moment frames, many combinations of fixed and pin joints are possible. But most of the time we use almost all of them as fixed. Now, pros and cons of moment frames. First of all, the architects, they absolutely love these moment frames because it does not spoil anything. So it has no diagonals, then it does not disrupt any architectural ornaments in the buildings. Doors and windows can be provided at any point. On the top, you can see that braced at the first floor level and the moment frame at the ground floor level, so that it can give access to different floors. It is common to have moment frames on facade and bracing walls in core areas. On facade, you need access and other things. So at the perimeter of the building, most of the time we have moment frames, and wherever you have walls in core areas, we provide bracing across that. Members are going to be heavier in moment frames than pin frames, and the connections are going to be very complex and bulky. So the solution to all this is to use hybrid system. And then again here you can see a hybrid system. The first one is two-way braced system, and the second one is orthogonal or braced moment frame, and third one is complete two-way moment frame. So the middle one is a hybrid system. And behavior of moment frame, before going into analysis, predict what you expect. So after doing analysis, confirm you get what you are expecting. Here you can see that the bending moments are going to look like this because it's fixed connection. So you will have some kind of moment, and the shear force is going to look like this, and then axial forces are going to look like this, and curvature will look like this, and deflected shape. I will not go into details of this, how do we develop this deflected shape, but I will just draw it. Now, behavior of moment frames. The structures are democratic. They transfer load wherever you have lots of material. So the members with higher stiffness will attract more load. So here you can see that this is weak column and strong beam. your beam is going to attract more moment, and the deflection is going to be like this, because the beam is not deflecting when we are applying horizontal load, and only columns are deflecting. The reason is that because columns are weak. And then you have a system where the beams and columns are equally strong. Then you can see that the moments are distributed equally. Only the central column is taking more moment because it's taking some share of moment from the other frame. There is some kind of the deflection pattern between these two. This is different. Now you have some kind of deflection wavy pattern in the slab as well. And then you have strong column and weak beam. Now this is most of the time the ideal situation. We always try to have a strong column. In beams you have less forces, but in columns you can see that you have higher bending. So columns are taking a lot of loading here, so that's why you can see deflection of columns is less because they are heavier. And the behavior depends on the ratio EI of the beam to EI of the column. And then again here you can see the first column is heavy, so you can see it's taking higher load, and the deflection pattern is going to be like this. The analysis of fixed base moment frames. So how do we analyze them? Coefficients I2 over I1 into H over L. Again, this is giving you the analysis of these frames. And again, analysis of pin base frames. So here again, simply have a look how do we analyze these frames quickly. And then we have rigid connections, and so full depth end plate will provide some kind of fixity, and then extended depth end plate will certainly provide a fixed joint. Stiffened end plate will provide some kind of fixity as well, and the beam with mini hunch and also the hunched beam, all of these will provide some kind of fixity. So these are rigid connections. Shear walls. Now, stability from shear walls. Most buildings get most of their lateral stability from shear walls, which are enclosed in stair shafts and lift or service risers. And certainly in case of concrete buildings, we provide shear walls across lift shaft. And RC walls have the advantage of providing automatic fire resistance to compartments containing escape stairs. That's another advantage. RC walls are usually much stiffer than braced frames and moment frames. They provide quite higher stiffness, and the reason is that because second moment of area is equal to BD cube over 12. The depth of the wall is quite high. So if this is shear wall, you can see that this distance is quite a lot as compared to the thickness of the wall. So that provides quite high stiffness. And steel buildings with shear walls, most buildings get most of their lateral stability from shear walls, often reinforced concrete, enclosing stairs, lifts, and risers. So this is the example of a building where shear wall is used. RC walls are jumped formed or slipped formed and usually rise several floors ahead of a steel frame. Steel buildings with shear walls, in some cases, shear walls are used in hybrid systems with bracing or moment frames. Gravity framing beams connected to shear walls with cast in plates or anchors. This is how gravity framing is connected to the shear wall. But make sure that gravity framing is connected. If the wall is not connected to the frame, then it will not provide the capacity which is needed. And then we have different types of shear walls. So walls are either isolated or coupled. The most common ones are L-shaped walls or tubular cores. These ones are not uncommon as well. And then we have different types of shear walls and different stress patterns. Now the first one is a solid shear wall. The second one has got holes, and third one has got bigger holes or space for doors. And fourth one is side by side shear wall. So again, stress patterns are given at the end. Now this is the example of design of shear wall. So I will not go into much details. KQW is the wind load it is given. Obviously, we have worked it out somehow. Load on the beam is given on kilonewton per meter. Assuming the floor load 4000 kilonewton is supported on 8 columns, the horizontal action due to imperfections. This is EHF. Tensile stress is worked out. Tensile stress in the wall, which is equal to N over LT into M over TL square over 6. N is the axial force, and axial force is coming from the load on the beams. I suppose the self weight of the wall as well. So load coming from the beams is equal to, so 35 is the load and self weight of the beams. We have 4 beams here and 2.5 is the span of the beam. This will give you the total load of the beam. And the wall itself, wall is a 200 mm thick wall, and the height of the wall is 12. This width of the wall is 2.5, and if you multiply it with 25, which is self weight of concrete, reinforced concrete, kilonewton per meter cube, you will get load in kilonewton. So this is self weight of wall. Okay, this is wall and this is beams, and in that way you get this 500 kilonewton. And then you have MED, which is design wind loading. We have multiplied it with 1.5 as a factor, which is equal to N over LT, and 10 that you see here, this is equivalent horizontal load. So that we are adding this 10 to this. So 40 plus 10, 75 plus 10, again here 75 plus 10, again here we will add this up. So when you add it up and multiply it with 1.5, that will give you the factor. And then because it's moment, we will multiply this force with the height of the building. So this force has got height of the building as 12. And these forces, 75 has got 9, 75 plus 10, here it is 6, and from here it's 3. So 9, 6, and 3. So when you work it out, it's 3195 kilonewton meter. This is the moment caused by wind loading. N over LT, N is the load, and we convert this load kilonewton into newtons. L is the length of shear wall, which is 2.5, convert it into millimeters, 2500. And 200 millimeter is the thickness of the wall. That's where these values come from. MED is the applied moment that we worked here, divided by T. T is the thickness of the wall. L square, L is the length of the wall, which is here, converted into millimeters, divided by 6. So from here, we're getting tensile stress, FT, as 14.3 Newton per millimeter square. Now, assume the tensile is resisted by 1 meter at the end of the wall. So we are taking 1 meter strip. So area of steel will be 0.5 FT LT into T divided by FYD. FYD is the yield strength of steel. So 0.5 FT, we worked it out. LT is the thickness of the strip that we have taken. We have taken 1 meter strip of the wall, multiplied by thickness of the wall, which is 200, divided by FYD, which is design strength of the steel. So this is giving me 3287 millimeter square overall area. So dividing it by 2, I'm getting 1644 per face, because it's used on 2 faces. And I can use this T20, means 20 millimeter dia bar at 175 millimeters center to center. Now this will give me the tensile reinforcement in the wall.